What's up guys, Burden here. So, I've been working on this warrior PvP build, and I've been taking it through a lot of tournaments, and I think I have it fine-tuned to the way I like it. Now, I just want to give you a fair warning before we go through the build. Warriors overall are somewhat, they're lacking condition removal compared to other classes, and this is, when you look at my runes and things like that, you might wonder why I'm choosing these things, but I'm playing a somewhat defensive kind of builds with a lot of CC, and you could really feel the lack of condition removal when you're going up against a Necro or like a Trap Ranger. So I'll get melted by Trap Rangers. Maybe at lower levels and lower ranks you don't feel it as much. Warriors don't feel as weak, but when you're playing against much better, much coordinated teams, you can really start feeling the condition removal, the lack of condition removal on a warrior. So let's just go through my sigils and traits and everything like that real quick, and then we'll jump into PvP, and then I can talk about kind of the pros and cons of this build, and if you want to play it or not. So for the runes, I'm using runes of Lisa. Now, I don't really need precision, and I don't really need condition duration, but what's great about this is when I use my elite skill, which is on a 60-second cooldown, which some abilities are even longer than that, I lose all conditions and I gain all boons for 5 seconds. So it really helps me with my condition removal because I am lacking it. So at first I thought it was a little crazy to use the Runes of Lisa on the warrior, but for a defensive build that I'm using right now, the condition removal when I use my elite is really nice, I think. So that's why I'm using the Runes of Lisa. For the amulet, I'm using the Soldier's Amulet, mostly because I have a Source of Fury. When I take 10% more, 10% damage or more in one single strike, then I'll gain Fury. So I don't really need precision so much. So I am going defensive and I'm stacking power. So Soldier's Amulet makes the most sense. As you can see, I do have a decent attack damage and my crit's sitting around 17%. And then I have pretty high stats for my defensive stats. I have almost 2000 toughness and almost 1900 vitality. For my sigils on my hammer, I'm using a 60% chance on crit to remove a boon. Now I'm doing this mostly because I'm not playing I'm not playing a build to really kill people, but I'm playing a build to support my team through crowd control. And basically, I figured removing boons is another way. That's why I like the sigil of nullification. And then on my rifle, I have the Sigil of Intelligence. And the reason I have this is because I can get a guaranteed crit on my kill shot. So I'll build up endurance using my hammer, and then I'll switch over to my rifle, and I'll use kill shot when I'm at 3 bars endurance, just to make sure I crit with my kill shot. And I can usually hit around 5 or 6k with my kill shot. Now let's look at my traits. I have 10 in strength, which I'm using number 3. 5% of power is given as a bonus to vitality, which equals out to be about a little over 100 extra vitality I get from that. And then I have 10 in arms. I gain fury and vigor for 10 seconds when I take damage greater than 10% of my maximum health, which will happen when you're going against burst builds. So I do have a source of fury and I have a source of vigor. That's why I don't have to stack precision, because since I have that source of fury, I can stack power, and then when I get that fury, I'll be doing a lot more damage than if I sacrificed some power to get some precision for more crit. Now in defense, I have 30. I have sure-footed, increases stance duration by 25%, and I'm using 2 stances. I have 10 merciless hammer. Hammer damage is increased by 25% when foe is disabled. Reduces cooldown of hammer skills by 20%. And then number 11, Defy Pain. Activates Endure Pain at 25% health. So usually I do have Endure Pain equipped on here. I usually like to use this towards the beginning of a fight, and then I'll know that my Endure Pain will be coming later on when I reach 25% health. Now in tactics, I have 20 points. I have number 1, Leg Specialist. Apply a 1-second immobilize whenever you cripple a target. Now the big purpose of this build is a lot of CC, and one thing that this build really excels at is neutralizing points and even taking points over, especially on 1v1s. You can really control you can really control an opponent by knocking them out of the point all the time. So since we have this 1-second mobilize when we cripple, our hammer and our rifle both have a cripple. So when we knock our opponent out of the point, we can use our cripple on them and it'll immobilize them, and they'll be stuck outside of the point while we're capturing the point. So I find that one really important. And I already said that the one thing that warriors really lack is condition removal. When you go against a trap ranger, or you go against a really good necromancer, you will see how fast your health melts away. So I I grabbed Shrug It Off. I used to actually have 20 points in arms and only 10 in tactics. But as I was playing and fine tuning, I really felt like I needed Shrug It Off, which uses Shake It Off, which removes one condition. That activates when you have more than one condition on you, and then it's only triggered once every 30 seconds. Now it is 30 seconds, but it gives us just one more little small way to remove conditions off of ourselves. So we have the Runes of Lisa, so when we use our elite skill, we remove all conditions off of ourselves. So we have our heal, which will remove a few, I think 3 conditions, or 2 conditions, sorry. And then we have Shrug It Off, which will remove one condition. And I like to bring this because I'm not bringing Shake It Off. So it kind of gives me room to bring in a different utility instead of Shake It Off, which I really like the utilities I'm bringing, and I don't want to sacrifice one for Shake It Off. For the utilities, I have Balance Stance, which is really important, I think, for a couple of reasons. When you are fighting over a point trying to neutralize it, stability is nice, but the biggest reason is I can be one of the people in my group that's finishing and resurrecting people since I'm more defensive, and I need a source of stability for that so people aren't knocking me around. I can't tell you how many times in tournament teams, if I'm going solo and I get put together with the other random people, one of the biggest reasons teams lose is because they're not resurrecting their teammates fast enough, and they're not finishing people off. So if you had a 2-on-2 and the enemy goes down and you don't finish him, then his ally comes and resurrects him, then it's still 2-on-2. It could have been 2-on-1. You could have easily won that fight. And I can't tell you how many times that's happened where my teammates are just kind of auto-attacking the guy on the ground, where you should really be going over there and finishing him off. And since I have the source of stability, I can easily go over to anybody and finish them off without worrying about being knocked down. But basically, the people that this doesn't work on would be people like a Mesmer or a Thief, who can, instead of using a knockdown ability, they use like a teleport. So I can't really do anything about that. But for like Guardians, which are usually your usual bunkers, or necromancers, or anyone who's going to knock me down or fear me or crowd control me in any way, then I'm not going to have a problem with that. Now I also bring Stomp because, like I said, my goal is to keep people out of a point, or to even run to a point and neutralize it. So Stomp gives me just one extra crowd control that I can use, and I love the AOE of it. I mean, I can knock 4 or 5 people out of a point just with Stomp. And I bring Endure Pain, which is another stance, and I take no damage from attacks for 5 seconds. It's pretty self-explanatory. For my heal, I'm bringing Mending. Heal yourself and cure 2 conditions. Now, of course, the reason I'm bringing that is because I need the condition removal. So you'll see in the warrior, you kind of have to sacrifice a lot of things just to get a very small amount of condition removal, which is kind of why warriors are a little gimped right now. They really need some sort of work on condition removal. So anyway, that's the overall build of it. I'll put a link down at the bottom in case you didn't want to watch this. I'll put a link down to Guild Wars 2 build.com. Anyway, let's jump into some PvP, and I can show you guys some action and talk about the pros and cons of this build. Okay guys, so let's talk about the pros and cons of this build. Now, hopefully a lot of the pros are somewhat visible to you. As you can see, I'm going against this warrior over at mine, and I just did a combo and I just neutralized the point in about just a couple of seconds. So now their team's getting absolutely no points for this, and I'm also wasting this guy's time. And I do have an ally who just came, and you can see the support that I give to my allies with this as well. I mean, what is the enemy gonna do when they're constantly on their ass all the time, and I have a burst build ally with me? They're just gonna go down. There's nothing they can do about it. So here's another good example of how I can really dominate on a point with my crowd control. Now, I don't dominate necessarily just on survivability. alone, like maybe an elementalist or a guardian could. But I dominate because I have so much crowd control, and you can see there's like 3 people here, and I just neutralized keep. Basically, I had a teammate here on the point as well, but I was pretty much the only person on the point, and I was able to completely neutralize this point basically on my own against 3 people because I have stomp, because I have so many CCs on my hammer and my rifle. So you can see the support that it brings to your group. So it's not a build that's going to be dominating people as far as killing goes, but I dominate people by knocking them on their ass all the time. Now this is a good example of how this build really works on 1v1s. Now this is an RS sharing elementalist, and they do have very good survivability and they have decent damage, and you can see that he's really no match for me. He really wants to take this point, and he's just not going to get it from me. So this build does really well against 1v1s. And here's an example of another Mesmer. He's already a little low on health, but you can see the damage I do to more squishier classes. I do very high sustain damage. I don't do like spike damage, but I do pretty good damage all the time. So it's very reliable damage. It's just not spike damage. So I'm not gonna burn someone down really fast. But they will go down after a time. I will wear them down. So here's an example of going against a very heavy spike build. This is a thief who's trying to take this point. Now I did come over here and neutralize it already, and he was trying to come and defend it. But there's no way. I might even capture it from him because there's no way he's gonna be able to survive with me this long. I'm just gonna be able to keep CCing him out of the point until I completely own this point. And now I have an ally who's come, and now the thief is dead. Now here's where I want to talk about the cons of this build, and you'll see that I'm doing pretty well on this point for a while, and I have stability, so it's easier to finish this guy. You can see that that guy is trying to get his ally up, so I used my number 5 on my rifle to knock him off. But now you can see the conditions are really coming down, and I'm trying everything I can do. I'm throwing my heal to remove the conditions. I used my elite to activate the runes of Lisa to get all the conditions off of me. But you can see the conditions just keep stacking and stacking, and there's no way, there's just really no way that I can remove all of them. And I'm eventually going to go down here, mostly just because the conditions, really. I was dominating the point, but the conditions right now for warriors is terrible. We really don't have enough condition removal, especially for me being built so defensive, and even for having such high vitality. It's just really something that it's out of our control right now until ArenaNet fixes it. And here's another example. This is a 2-on-1, and you can see how long I was surviving before, even on 3-on-1s or 1-on-1s. It's not hard to survive, but this is where this is really where the problem is with warriors. You can see how fast I melted because just too much conditions, and I can't remove them. And even if I do remove them, they're just gonna stack up anyway. Because I don't have enough passive condition removal, and the condition removal I do have is like my heal, and there's not anything reliable for me. So that's the problem with that's the problem with warriors right now in PvP. And like I said, in lower ranks you're not going to notice it as much because you're just not going against as good of people. So cleansing your conditions is going to be a little bit easier. But once you start going against higher ranked people, and then people are just becoming overall more coordinated, and their teams are becoming more coordinated, and they know that warriors are weak to conditions, or they're going to throw all the conditions they can at you. It gets very difficult to survive. So give this build a try. You might do well, you might not, but if you really love a lot of crowd control and knocking people around, then this is a great build for you to have. Just hopefully they fix the condition problem on warriors soon. This has been Burden from AddictGaming.com. I hope you guys enjoyed this build, and I really hope you give it a shot and see if you enjoy it or not. Make sure to leave a comment or question below if you have one, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. If there's a certain build or a certain class you want me to do a build on, then let me know and I'll try to get to it. And make sure you guys subscribe also for more of our Guild Wars 2 content. Thanks guys!